As a cybersecurity advisor, I work with both public and private organizations to help them be more cyber resilient and more cyber secure. I do this through advisory services. We do this also through helping them do assessments. And then we also do this through working with collaboration groups and networking organizations. We also help them identify and establish best practices. And then we also assist with doing incident coordination and incident assessment. When I graduated from college, I was actually hired on to a local sheriff's office. What I was hired on to do actually didn't end up being what I did when I worked for them, because one day I walked into my boss's office and he looked at me and he said, "You're doing cyber." And I was like, "Okay, well, what does that mean?" And he said, "I don't know, go figure it out." And I said, "Well, what do you want me to do with it?" And he said, "I don't know, go figure it out." And so I ended up flopping around like a dead fish for about 4 or 5 months trying to figure out what the heck cyber was, what cybersecurity was, what I was going to do with it, all of those things that you had to go figure out, right? Because it's important to note that I had nothing to do with cybersecurity prior to being told that this is what I would be doing in that position. But I figured it out, and after flopping around for a while, I figured out which way was up, and I started running from there. In that position, I was able to learn a lot about cybersecurity, a lot about the different threats that are out there, and all those different things. My eyes were completely open to the world that was cybersecurity. In that position, or I should say when I was in that position, the state actually opened up a dedicated cyber intelligence analyst. And it's important to note that that actually was with the state police. So the state police were looking at getting more heavily into addressing cybercrime and different cyber networking issues. And so they were looking at hiring a cyber intel analyst. And in that position, I was able to continue the work that I had been doing at the county's sheriff's office, but I was able to do it in a much larger scale. So I was providing assistance to the entire state as opposed to just that region that I was in. I made a lot of connections and I met a lot of people there. They provided me the opportunity to take some SANS classes and some professional certification trainings. So I was able to do that. I picked up my CISSP when I was there. And one of the things that I had the opportunity to do was, while I was there, was work a lot with the Department of Homeland Security in a variety of different ways. So, and with a bunch of different departments. And one of the things that came out of that was that when CISA opened up the CSA positions, I was sent it and I was told, "Hey, you should apply. We want you to come work for us." Funny thing about that is that I applied for the position and was told no, that I didn't qualify, no interview, no nothing. With that being said, though, they ended up reposting the position again a couple of months later, and I was like, and everybody kept saying, "You got to reapply, you got to reapply," and I was like, "Okay, fine, whatever." And I reapplied, not thinking that I was necessarily going to get the position, but I ended up getting not only, an interview and being able to talk with them and learn more about what CISA did and how it worked, but also I ended up being hired on by the organization. And so I can't say that I necessarily took a traditional path, right? Going from not knowing anything about cybersecurity and being an anthropology major to all of a sudden working law enforcement to now I work for CISA and I'm in a doctorate program right now working on my cybersecurity degree. So it's been a great ride. There have been quite a few challenges. So there's the technical aspect, right? So with cybersecurity, the techniques and the different things that they're doing, that the attackers are doing, are constantly changing. And the things that you need to do to be more cyber secure, yes, there's a baseline, but a lot of what you're doing actually needs to change as well and to evolve with the attackers and the different situations that are happening as well. When you look at the fact that traditionally cybersecurity kind of started out as being, just something that encompassed computers and servers and that sort of thing. And now it's switched around and you have light bulbs and automobiles and refrigerators and ovens and all these different things that used to not be connected to the internet are now connected, which all puts them inside of the cybersecurity realm. So there's definitely a lot of challenges to the work itself, which are good because I think they help keep you on your toes and give you more things to think about. But I will say on kind of the negative side of things, there has been more than one occasion where I have definitely been treated as kind of the other, particularly in situations with my male counterparts. And unfortunately, I've had to find different opportunities and different ways of addressing those situations. So some of them may be working with my male counterparts to try and get them to do what needs to be done, or different things like that, in order to address the issue at hand. But I will say on the positive side, in a lot of cases, my male counterparts have been fantastic and they have provided assistance. And, when you sit down and talk to them, they realize that there are some challenges there that kind of need to be dealt with and addressed that they may not have realized was going on. And I will say that, that it's important to note that the cybersecurity field is definitely changing and more diverse than it has ever been. When I first got started, it was not uncommon for me to walk into a room and everybody stop and stare at me, right? Because I was the oddball compared to a lot of the people in the room. That doesn't happen as much anymore, and it's getting less and less frequent. So it is definitely becoming a more inclusive environment, and there are definitely areas in which I think that it is moving in the right direction of inclusion. And I look forward to a time when it is fully inclusive and everyone feels comfortable working in the environment. So I think it is difficult to recruit women into the cybersecurity field. And I think that there's a couple of important reasons why this is the case. So cybersecurity and all the different things that you can do within the field itself, a lot of people just don't know about it, right? There are many people who don't know that the cybersecurity profession exists. And then even within there, a lot of people don't know all the different areas that you can do within the field. It's a very diverse, large field. You can have different specializations, everything from working specifically with automobiles to looking at, the cybersecurity of the power grid to looking at the cybersecurity of a gas pump, right? There's a lot of different opportunities that are out there, and it's important to note that these things are there, but a lot of people just don't realize it. And so I think one of the ways that we can tackle this is by helping to educate women on all the different areas that they can be part of and that they can really make a difference in. Another area which I think is important is the fact that there's a lot of misperceptions around cybersecurity, and a lot of these I think really need to be addressed. So for example, right, I've been to more than one cybersecurity conference, and when I sit there and I talk with women, one of the things that kind of gets said or is discussed is, there's always these really aggressive terms that are often associated with the cybersecurity field. So for example, cybersecurity attacker, cybersecurity warrior, right? Those sorts of things. So to be a cybersecurity warrior makes sense if you're in the military, right? So the military, they need fighters, they need warriors. That all makes perfect sense. But if you're not necessarily that type of person, and say maybe you're not a fighter, but you're more of a fixer, the term warrior can actually be a big deterrent. I mean, I've talked to people who literally have looked at me and said, I am not a cybersecurity warrior. That is a horrible term. That just needs to stop, right? So that's something to think about. The other thing that goes along the same lines of misperceptions is just kind of sitting there and looking at and discussing what a cybersecurity professional looks like and how they act. So a lot of people associate cybersecurity professionals as being, some male sitting in their basement who's socially awkward and all that stuff. So yeah, those people do exist, right? But that's not the case for all cybersecurity practitioners. There are a lot of people who are amazing individuals with great social skills and great technical skills, and it really is a much more diverse field than that. And then the other thing is we need to do a better job at matching up perceptions of work with the actual job itself. So for example, I came from law enforcement, right? And within law enforcement, there are a lot of perceptions about what I did on the cybersecurity side of the house and how I acted and what my job role was. And that was nothing like what I actually did, right? My job was completely different than what a lot of people decided to tell me that I did, which on occasion was funny, but it also realistically though, at the end of the day, goes to show you that like, it's just not there, right? We need to be able to do a better job at helping people realize that if you're saying, hey, I do this job in this field, this is what it actually means, that perceptions and realities are coming closer to being the same. I will say things have definitely gotten better on this front. Misperceptions are being chipped away, and they are getting better at mirroring reality. And I would say that the closer we can get to that, and the more that we can educate people, I think the better off we're going to be. This is a great field to be in. I'd highly recommend considering it if you're not already in it. And, one of the things that I hear a lot is, particularly from girls and women, is they sit there and they say, well, I'm not smart enough to be in cybersecurity, or I'm not smart enough to do this. And I'm sorry, but that's not true. You can totally do this. You can go on the really technical side, or you can still do cybersecurity and not necessarily be as technical as some other people, right? But the key is that it's a huge field. You have a lot of opportunities. Don't be afraid to take that chance and try it out. The field, and if you don't like what you're doing in the field, try something else. There's a lot of opportunities. Be willing to take on challenges. This field is a very fast-paced and dynamic environment. There's a lot of changes that are going on, which is good, right? Because then that means you'll never get bored. Something new will always happen. The other thing that I think is important to note, and it's good, is that this is a field where you can constantly keep learning. And it's important that you keep learning throughout your career. You need to do it in order to stay ahead. There's just a lot of different things that are happening and changes that are happening every day. And the only way that you're going to be able to keep on top of it is, as best you can, is being willing to and seeking out new learning opportunities, whether that's listening to podcasts on your drive home, or while you're walking around the block, or walking the dog, or doing things like that. You can also do things like attend networking functions and different professional meetings and things like that. As students, you can do that. As women who aren't necessarily in the field yet, but are interested in learning more about it, you can still join and attend a lot of those different networking groups as well. Most importantly, and I can't stress this enough, is don't be afraid to ask for help when needed. Right? There's nothing wrong with asking for help. And there's no way that you can ever know everything that you're going to need to know for this field. It's too big. There's too many changes that are constantly going on. The way that you're going to stay on top of everything you need to know and be successful is to work with others and to get help when needed. Ask questions. As long as you do those couple of things, there's no doubt that you'll do well in this field and you'll be able to be a success.